Oh, hello, Flowwater. Good to see you. Yes, I have already had dinner. Um, I made sure to be finished before the live session so I could talk to you. How are you today? Hi, welcome. Welcome. Thank you for coming to see me on this live today. Um, I have some questions already that people sent to me on the admin site, and I will get to those a bit later. But if you have any initial questions, you can add them in the chat box. So. If you have any English language related questions or English study related questions, or you may know I'm from Manchester in England. So if you have any questions about England or about my hometown, I'd be happy to answer those for you. If you hi there, happy Chuseok. I'm really excited to have a few days off over the Chuseok vacation. Oh, you have great energy from my class. Oh, I'm very glad. I'm glad. Hi there, Julio. Hi. Thank you for coming to see me today. This is the first time I have ever used YouTube Live. I was so nervous. Just setting up the technical aspects was a bit scary. I'm not very good with technology, but somehow I managed to make it work. My administrator helped me a lot. I have to say thank you so much to her. So I hope this goes well for my very first time. Romantic Freddy asks, how's work going? Work has been so much fun this month, and I guess every month. My class that I teach regularly is the book discussion class. So I choose different books in English language, and we study together. And literature is my great passion. So I have fun every month. Maybe I can show you. I brought this book with me today. This is a book called Mythos by Stephen Fry. It's a book of Greek mythology, but it's in English, and we are reading the stories together with my class and talking about all the interesting things that happen, and it's really fun. I'm lucky. I have the most fun job in the world. Emin asks, do you know Hon? Unfortunately, I haven't heard of that before. Is it Hon? Is it a book? Is it a singer? You'll have to give me more information. I don't know that one. Well, maybe I could get to some of the questions that people sent to me on the website. As you may know, I will pick 10 winners, my 10 favorite questions to win a cup of Starbucks coffee. And I will pick another 5 here on the live to win some free chicken. So stay tuned if you're hoping to win some chicken. I will announce the names as we go through them, and then I will send you a chat box to link with me, and then I can take your details and make sure you get your prize. But let's pick the questions first. So there were so many interesting questions that people sent. It was really hard to pick. So I'm sorry if I didn't pick you. it was very difficult to pick the best ones. So many good ones. I thought I'd start with one of the more sort of serious study questions. Let me. Hyoju Kim asked me for a recommendation regarding studying English. She said, "It is hard to level up my English skill, even though I practice 3 times a week. Any tips for me?" I think that's a good question. I think it's a question many of my students have asked me before. She sent her question in English, so I can tell that she speaks English quite well. When you get to a higher level, it's really difficult to feel your progress. I think when you're quite low level, and you're grasping new topics, present simple, past, future, you can really feel your progress quickly. Oh, I can talk about different times in English. I can talk about different topics. But when you've got a general understanding of a lot of grammar and a lot of vocabulary, it's hard to feel the difference between an intermediate level and, say, an upper intermediate level. And I think the higher you go, the more people feel that, like they feel like they're not making progress, even though they probably are. So I would suggest, if you talk to a teacher, if you have a native speaker teacher or even a Korean teacher, they will tell you, they will be able to feel your progress. They will notice the areas in which you've improved. So keep in touch with a teacher, if you can regularly, or maybe if you have friends who are native speakers or teachers, ask them, do you think I've improved? Where do you think I've improved? They can probably tell you what they think. But when it's you, when you're trying to analyze yourself, it's hard to feel your progress. It's a really common issue. So don't worry, don't panic, don't give up. I think you're probably doing really well. If you're studying 3 times a week, that's great. I think a little bit on a regular basis is a really good idea. So you're probably progressing. You just can't feel it, is my honest answer. So thank you for that question. It was a really good question. So Iminji says, yes, Hon is a British singer. I'm really embarrassed. I don't know. I don't know many modern British singers. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, I've been very disconnected, I feel, from my home country. And even before that, I only visit once a year. So I feel like I don't keep up to date with the latest music or the latest TV shows. I'm a bit behind, really. So if you like this musician, I will definitely check them out. I need more recommendations for home music. Romantic Freddy says, I love British musicians. Okay, send me some recommendations. Honestly, I'm out of touch. I am far behind with my music. So I would be very grateful for your recommendations. Oh, and Korean music too, of course. Always excited to find new stuff. Oh, you like my eye makeup? Thank you. That's very kind. For those of you who don't know me well, I spend my time when I'm not teaching writing about Korean makeup. I do a little beauty blog, so I'm slightly obsessed with makeup. I don't know why, but I think it's fun. Okay, let's take a look at another question. So here's a really nice one. Kim Na-young asks me, what was your happiest experience in Korea? You must have had many experiences in Korea, but I am curious about the one that remained the happiest memory. Again, I guess it's a hard question to answer because I've had so many amazing experiences in Korea. But one of the best ones was many, many years ago. I started a little chatting club among my students. So um, we would practice our English together in class, but it's quite a formal setting. And we study about literature, so gets quite serious, the conversation. So we wanted to have a more sort of casual chat, a bit more sort of ordinary chit chat. So we set up a little time and a place to meet. And I invited all my students, and we got together in the cafe at Pagoda in the evening. And we just hung out for a couple of hours and chatted more on a sort of personal, casual level. And it was just so much fun. It was lovely to get all my students together in one group and see them meeting each other, and just a chance to get to know them a bit better outside of the sort of more formal class setting. So that was one of my happiest memories of gathering up with my students for a little chatting club. That was cool. Oh, Romantic Freddy asks me, Led Zeppelin, Yes, I do. I absolutely love Led Zeppelin. My father is a huge rock and roll fan. And he educated me when I was young in all the important 1970s bands, 60s and 70s bands that I needed to know. So I'm proud to know Led Zeppelin, and I must thank my father for giving me a good rock and roll education as a kid. Classic, great band. Old rock probably is my favorite type of music. Stairway to Heaven, absolutely. That was the first song I ever learned to play on the bass guitar. Special memory. Okay, so thank you, Kim Na-young, for your lovely question. I have so many great memories in Korea. I could talk all night about the wonderful things that I've done in this country. I love being here. So another, back to another more sort of serious question, language learning question. Lee Soo-jong asks me, how to study outside of class when speaking English? Is there anything more than vid viewing or shadowing? I think studying outside of class with a person is 100% the best way to practice. I know that here in Seoul, there are many language exchange programs. I guess right now, because of the corona situation, maybe some of them aren't running. But maybe they have an online version where you can meet fellow language students and chat one-to-one. But having the ability to try and practice your English in a sort of question and answer way with a real person who has a real interest in, getting to know you or talking about a theme or a hobby with you, making it real like that is always better than any other type of sort of out of classroom study. Watching movies is great, listening to music is great, studying with your textbook on your own, these are all valuable things. But I think for speaking practice, if you can find a partner to practice with and make it so real, like live that experience, it's going to be much more memorable. And I think you'll remember the things that you're practicing much better. So I think that's really helpful. Honestly, I've tried so many different ways to learn Korean, and after so many years, my Korean is still so bad. And I think the main reason is I'm very scared to practice in real life. When it comes to trying to talk to people, real Koreans in a one-to-one situation, I get terrified and I stop. And I think this is why I can't learn well, because without that real life practice, it doesn't really stick in my head that that great. So anyway, there's a lesson from my experience of what not to do as well. So let's see, I've forgotten your name. Thank you, Lee Sejong, for your question. Before I continue with the prize-winning questions, do you guys have any questions for me? Or maybe you can tell me about your plans for Chuseok. For me, I'm quite lucky. My husband's parents live very close to where I live, so we can easily see them on Chuseok Day and enjoy some food together. And yeah, I can't see my own family because they live too far away. But I will call them, and I will chat to them and find out their latest news. So that will be nice for Chuseok. I want to know what book is good when I try reading foreign books in English. First suggestion, a good book to start with would be a graded reader. Graded readers are books that have been specially modified, specially changed for language learners. So they're not just novels or stories made for native speakers. They have been altered to suit different language learning levels. So a great way to start is to check out the Oxford English Classics graded readers. I think maybe Cambridge also does a series, or maybe many of the big publishers do their own series now, but I really like the Oxford series because they have the story, the simply told story, and then at the back they have some key vocabulary listed, so you can double check the meanings of some of the harder words. Also, they have some questions for you to sort of check back to check your understanding of the story and to sort of go back over what you've read. And they make great discussion questions. Again, if you can read the same book with a friend, with a fellow student, you can talk about it together using the questions at the back. I think they're a really good starter. If you're ready for something a bit more difficult, I think a good one maybe, I read The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. He's an American writer, and it's a young adult novel. So it's quite a simple story, and he writes in a fairly simple way. He's aiming at sort of young adults. He doesn't use complex sentence constructions. He doesn't use long sentences and very high level or academic vocabulary. So I think he makes a great writer. I think he's written quite a few books actually, but the one I read was The Fault in Our Stars. So I thought that was quite, if you feel like you're ready for a full novel, that's quite a good one to start with. Not too difficult, but interesting and fun. It's quite a romantic, touching story. So yeah, that would be my top recommendation to start out with. So thank you for your question. Oh, and one more thing I should say about that is I think something super motivating and helpful if you're reading in English is trying to persuade someone you know, your friend or your fellow student, to read the book with you. Because then you can talk about it. Then you can ask each other, like, oh, I didn't understand this bit. Like, what does she mean? Or what is this about? Or and you can try and help each other through the process, and you can clarify your understanding. When if you thought it meant this thing, and then your friend says, yeah, I agree, I think it meant the same, you're kind of confirming, yes, I understood this part, yes, I got the idea of this point. And that makes it more motivating. Sometimes, if you go through on your own, you feel like, I think I understand, but I don't know if I understand fully. Just getting some feedback from someone who's read the same book as you is really helpful. And it makes you realize, oh yeah, I can understand, I can understand this bit. And you can get some help when you don't understand. So I think that's one of the reasons people like my class. It's just being able to get some feedback on what you've read. Did I understand okay? Did I get it right? Let double check this sentence, double check this word, what does this mean? And a lot of the time you find you're right. Yeah, you understood really well, but you need someone to tell you that. So that's quite helpful. Romantic Freddy asks, I have a question. How should I practice English pronunciation? I think it's a bit of a stereotype, but I think it's true. They say that speaking well or pronouncing things well, making a sound well, means listening well. So I think if you can spend some time, a significant amount of time, regular time, listening to a certain accent, a certain way of pronunciation, because there are so many ways to pronounce English correctly, considering how many Englishes there are all over the world. But if you want to work on it, I'd say spend some time, regular time, listening to the way people pronounce the words. I think over time it becomes quite subconscious learning process. I know for myself, I'm from the UK. I'm from Manchester in England, and of course, when I arrived here, I had a pretty stable, ordinary British accent. But I spend a long time in Korea. I have a lot of Americans that I know. Most of my colleagues are American. Most of my students speak American English with an American accent. My husband spent 8 years in America. He speaks English with an American accent. And I can feel it because I hear the American accent all the time. I'm starting to sound American. Not right now. I am making, as much as I can, a conscious effort to maintain my British accent, but it slips sometimes. Simply by listening to the American accent very regularly, I am picking it up. I'm starting to sound more and more American. So if this can happen to a native speaker, I think this can happen to anyone. Spend your time listening to the accent you'd like to acquire. It really works without much effort, I think. So yes, that's an interesting one. I find, honestly, these days, I have to listen to BBC News or watch British TV shows regularly to make sure that I can keep my British accent, to try and maintain that just by listening on a fairly regular basis. I suppose it doesn't really matter if I have a British or American accent, but when I'm a teacher and Pagoda sells me as the British teacher, I think people expect a certain amount of British accent. So, but it's hard. I have to try and maintain it now, which is a strange feeling. But yes, listening is the first and most important part of your pronunciation. Very true. So yeah, Romantic Freddy mentions, I often practice watching BBC News. Yeah, me too these days. I'm not massively interested. A lot of the British news is very depressing. But yes, for the sound, just to hear them speaking regularly, so I don't get too Americanized. Not that it really matters. The American accents are beautiful too. Although I suppose I should mention, this goes both ways. I speak British English with a fairly British accent to my husband regularly, and I have noticed sometimes he says things like bottle, whereas he used to say bottle, like the Americans. But I think I'm having an influence on his accent as well, which is quite fun. And vocabulary as well. I have a habit of saying, instead of saying very, I tend to say well. So that TV show is well good. And Americans don't say it like that. I think, in fact, even Southern British people don't say it like that. That's a very Manchester thing to say. And I caught him the other day. We were talking about food, or he was eating something, and he went, oh, that's well good. I was like, he has subconsciously picked up some of my Manchester phrases. So it's funny. Oh, so, okay, let's have a look back at the list of questions and pick another one from my favorites list. Let's see. Kim Kyung-ho asks, what motivated you to become an instructor? Actually, I think initially it was an accident, but very quickly I started to realize that this is the job I was made for. I needed a change in my life. I was quite unhappy with my position in England. I used to work in the British government. I used to work for Manchester City Council as an administrator. Because my degree is in English language and literature, it's very common to get administrative jobs, but I found it so boring and dry and repetitive. And I was 26 years old, and I thought, I need to find something else. This is not the job that I was made for. And so I got a suggestion from a friend, why not teaching? You're really good at the language. That many countries are looking for English teachers. Why not give it a try? So kind of thought, well, okay, let's give it a shot. Let's see. If I hate it, I can always, come back and start my rather boring administration job again. So I went off to Russia to do my teacher training there. I studied their CELTA course and got my qualification and started teaching. And within a few months, I realized this is it. This is amazing. This is my chance to sort of help people with something I'm good at. And it was an interactive job rather than sitting behind a desk, writing emails for other people and helping people organize their schedules and, not really talking to that many people, just being on a computer all day, and then to being in a classroom, talking to people of all different ages, all different backgrounds, helping them with their English, explaining to them, finding ways to show meanings. It was just so much fun trying to figure out, how to help people understand words and expressions and bits of text and so on, and watching people improve and then seeing them so happy, and then maybe they'd go and get that job that they'd always wanted, or for the young ones, they'd get into that school that they wanted to get into, or they'd win their internship in another country, and they'd go on and they'd use what I'd taught them in their lives. And it was just the most rewarding experience. It made me feel like I was being useful. Whereas sitting behind that desk, in the admin job for years and years and feeling like, what am I doing? Do I really help anybody? So anyway, yes, very quickly I realized teaching is what I want to do, and so I have been teaching ever since. I ended up changing my country to explore a bit more, but essentially I'm still doing the same job. I'm still helping people improve and watching people go on to do new and exciting things with their lives, with their English. And yeah, it's just a really good experience and feeling to be a teacher. So I hope I can keep doing this job for a long time. As long as there are students, I will be their teacher. Yes. So, a great question. Yes, something very close to my heart. Something very important to me. Yes. I suppose this kind of connects to Min Kyung's question. Baek Min Kyung, thank you for your question. She asks, how did you come to Korea? I wonder if there is any special reason why you came to Korea. And this is connected to my reason for becoming a teacher or being a teacher. While I was teaching in Moscow, I met a Canadian teacher, and he arrived at our school in Moscow, and he talked a lot about the place where he had been teaching before. And he talked to us about a school called Pagoda in Seoul, South Korea. And he said he taught there for many years and really enjoyed it, and met lots of great students and was amazed by how many Koreans were studying English and were very enthusiastic to learn. So he talked very warmly about the company, about Korea, about the culture, about everything. And it was a time when it happened to be winter time in Moscow, which is a very cold time. And I remember thinking, wow, maybe I should try a different country. Russia is wonderful. I think Russia gets a bad rep. The media likes to say that the Russians are something that they're really not. It's a wonderful place, but the weather, oh my God, is difficult. And their government is very, very bureaucratic. So systems, are very difficult to deal with in Russia. There's some things that make life hard there. So after hearing this story of how wonderful Korea was from my new co-teacher, I thought, well, let's give it a try. Let's change country. Let's see what Korea has to offer. And so I came just for a 1-year contract, just to see how it was initially. And I loved it. It was the first time I'd been asked to teach literature. So that captured my heart. So that's how I came to Korea. Yes, I came with not much expectation, just to see how it was. But I absolutely fell in love with the place and the people, especially. So, sorry, let me remember your name. Baek Min Kyung, thank you very much for your question. I see another question has come through on the chat. What is the emphasis in your class? I guess to say for all my classes, the main emphasis is interest. I think I read some theory quite a while ago about, factors that affect language learning. And one of them is if you are interested in the subject you are discussing, in this target language, whatever foreign language you're trying to learn, you are much more likely to remember the sentence structures or vocabulary pieces that you're using or being asked to use in this conversation, in a lesson, or when reading a book. So I think my emphasis, my priority number one is make it interesting, which can be a challenge. I mean, if with my SLE students, I have to teach articles, I have to teach dry grammar topics, the vocabulary set of technology. You know, some of it seems very dry and boring on the page, but if I feel like if I can make it interesting and exciting and engaging for students, they want to try and say something on this topic. I generally believe that's a more successful class. So, and I think that's why book discussion works well, because books are interesting. And if I can tell the story in a fun and exciting way, it makes my students want to say something about the story to me in English. And the more I can pull out of them, the more they practice, the more they remember. It's a good cycle for any class to get into. So good question. You've had some great questions today, Romantic Freddy. Thank you. Okay, Flow Water asks, Claire, please could you tell me who is the most memorable student in Korea? Gosh, that's a hard question. I've had so many amazing students. Difficult to say. I guess for a lot of my students, they are still in my classes. Tons of students do repeat class. So because book discussion is a new course every month, we study a new book every month, they can just keep signing up again and again and again. And many of my students have been with me for a lot of years now, many years. So I'm very lucky that I become friends with these people. You know, I've taught them everything I know about literature at this point. I've got some students who've been with me since the beginning when I started at Pagoda 10 years ago, you know, more than 10 years ago. I've taught them every book I've ever read. You know, I've taught them as much about literature as I've ever studied, you know, at university. So some of these people have become my genuine friends and literature sort of collaborators. But so many wonderful people, you know. I think I love how many genuine like literature fans I've met in Korea. I guess, you know, even in England, lots of people like reading books, but not everyone is a sort of hardcore literature fan like me. You know, I love all the old classics. I love getting into the theory of storytelling and bits of philosophy of writing and all the moral issues and stylistic issues. And I found so many people in Korea who love that as well as me. So that's amazing too. That I've found some people that I can talk about what I love the most with, and we can share that passion together. So, but everyone's memorable, I think, in their own way. You know, people when we share about our lives, as we do in any English class, you know, you end up talking about yourself and your experiences. So, you know, my students have told me so many interesting stories about their lives, about their careers, about their hobbies and what they've been up to, their dreams for the future, you know, where they have been, where they are going. Yeah, everybody is interesting and unique in their own way. And again, it's another thing I love about this job, that I get to interact with people and share with people, not just stare at a computer screen all day and, you know, process documents. People are exciting. People are interesting. So it's too hard to pick a most memorable. There's so many memorable people. I guess I was so lucky for many years. I had a particular group, 7 a.m. class. For many years, it was a sort of tight-knit group of people, and they took my class for many years all together, and we talked about many books all together. But these days, most of that group have gone on to bigger and better things. Some of them have traveled abroad. Some of them have got new jobs. And I'm so proud, that they've gone on and done amazing things with their English. But I don't see them very often anymore. And that's sad. Yes. I do miss them when they kind of, graduate my class and go off and do other things. I miss them. Romantic Freddy asks, are you speaking in Manchester dialect? I think my Manchester friends would say no. To them, I've lost my accent. I guess my Manchester accent was never super strong to begin with, because I've traveled a lot. But I think mostly, I haven't lived in Manchester since 2007. Or, well, I was a bit into 2008. The beginning of 2008 was when I left. So after this long, unfortunately, I've lost it, which is a shame, because, yeah, my accent was a part of my home. But I guess it's not so helpful to have a strong accent when you're a teacher, because no one can understand. So my accent is very neutral these days, and perhaps even a little Americanized. Such is life. When you walk on the street, a stranger approaches you and speak English. Did you get through it? Is it rude? No, I think it's amazingly flattering. If someone speaks to me in English, I think people usually do speak to me in English because I look like a foreigner. It's the interesting difference between being a teacher or being a foreigner in Korea versus being a foreigner in Russia. In Russia, I looked like everybody else. So people didn't know I was foreign. So when they see me, they would start to talk to me in Russian, and then be surprised when I не говорю по-русски. I don't speak Russian, I'm sorry. Or медленно, пожалуйста, please speak slowly. But here in Korea, people see I'm a foreigner, so they tend to speak to me in English. And in fact, sometimes when I speak to them in Korean, they're so shocked they don't understand. Well, I suppose also my Korean is terrible. And when I try to say something in Korean, and so I just say it in English, and then they understand. So it proves that A, my Korean is still terrible, and B, it's actually quite surprising when foreigners speak Korean. So I tend to just speak in English. Then people are less surprised. Yes, and they can understand me better. My Korean is so bad. I guess my pronunciation is probably awful. So yes, I'm touched when people speak to me in English. If they know English, then that's nice. I think the funny ones are the kids. When I'm walking around in my neighborhood, I live in kind of a residential area, and there's lots of kids, teenagers and young kids too, walking around. And sometimes, they see me and they look at me and they giggle and they want to say something in English, and they come up and they're like, hi. And they're really nervous and excited and terrified all at the same time. And they try to say something, and I try to speak back, slowly and and clearly, hi, how are you? And then they're usually so embarrassed or shy that they just giggle and they run away. But it's very cute, and it's sweet that they want to try, and say something in English. So that touches my heart. Maybe one day they will be brave enough to not run away and just talk to me. But that's cute. Yeah. And actually, the sweetest conversations I have had with strangers are often with old people. A number of times on the subway, a little old lady or a little old man, they come up to me and they'll sit down next to me and they'll just start talking in English. And I'm always like, wow, your English is so good. And they want to ask me, about Korea. How is your time in Korea? What do you like about Korea? And I love it. I think it's so cute. And that they're brave enough, they just come and talk to a stranger, and it's sweet. It's very sweet. Yeah. So that's been nice. Do you think Korean kids are good at English? They probably are, but in real life, I don't actually know any kids. I teach at Pagoda, so we only teach adults. So the youngest students I meet are 18. I have never taught kids here, so I don't know. But I guess so. I have many friends who are kids teachers, and they say, the kids are very good. So many of them, even at a very young age, they're already practicing their English. Their parents have had them in English classes since they were, very young. So they've learned a bit like native speakers learn, in a very natural way from very young. So from what I hear that Korean kids are really good at English. So Flow Water asks, what is the difference between Ajuma in Korea and Ajuma in the UK? Again, it's been so long since I've been home. I feel like maybe I'm nearly 40. I will be 40 in July next year. So I think I'm kind of Ajuma now. I've come to Ajuma age. And my friends back home, they're all sort of, they're all married now pretty much, and they're getting their kids, and so on and so on. So I think they're all getting to sort of Ajuma age as well. And I don't know, are we different? How are we different? I think if you got kids, the Korean mums, Korean ajumas, are very, very education focused. And not to say that British mums don't care about education. Of course they do, but I think it's not the main thing that they're concerned about. Obviously, they want their kids to do well, but I think they're more interested in perhaps the social side, will my kid play well with others? Will my kid be the bully at school, or is my kid going to be the good kid that helps the others? And I think they generally worry about their kids' personality, perhaps a lot more than just the scores, just the grades. But again, I really don't know that much because I'm so out of touch with what Britain is today. I don't know, maybe things have changed. Maybe there is a greater focus on education for Hajumas these days. Oh, also, I think style is different. Korean ladies are so well dressed. Oh my God. I think, middle-aged Korean ladies look amazing, always. Great fashion, great hair, great makeup, great skin, great everything. But British middle-aged women my age, we don't look that great. We're not. British people are not known for being stylish. Sorry to my British brothers and sisters out there, but the Koreans can outdress you every day of the week. Sad but true. What is your favorite English word? I like the word inspiration. Inspiration is an amazing word. Yes. To be inspired is an essential part of life, I think. An essential part of life. Okay. I notice we are coming to the end of the session. So I'm going to call out the names one more time of those 5 people who won, who had my favorite questions, and you guys will win some chicken. So I'm just going to read your names one more time, and I will, after I read the names, I'll tell you how to claim your prize. So are you ready? Are you listening? Let's go back to the beginning. So first one was Kim Hyo-ju. Second was Kim Hyun-jung. Third was Kim Na-young. And fourth, what was the one about? The fourth was Kim Kyung-ho. And the final one, number 5, was Baek Min-kyung. Okay, so if you heard your name being read out, I have set up a group on Kakao Chat, and it has the same name as this video. So I forgot, how do I look back at the name? Let me check. The name is... I can just look at the Kakao group, can't I? I'll read the name again. So the Kakao group is called Claire in English, and 명절대피소 라이브스트리밍. Sorry, you can see how terrible my Korean pronunciation is here. But it's the same name as this video. So if you search for the Kakao group, you'll find the group, and there I will collect your details. I'll take your phone number if that's okay, and then they can text you via the number with your coupon to claim your chicken. Okay, and for those of you who have won coffee, there's a few of you who've won coffee on the admin site. I can't figure out how to mark you as the winner of the coffee yet, but I will ask my administrator. So please wait just a little bit longer, and you will be able to claim your prize on the site very soon. So thank you for your patience with my technical difficulties here and there. This is my very first live, so sorry. I promise if I do this again, I will have those small issues cleared up. Okay. There's 2 minutes left. David K asks, could you recommend a book that you're currently into, or any books that you think is good? Well, I have to recommend the book I'm reading right now with my book discussion class. It's called Mythos, which means mythology, basically, in Greek. And it's, it's not very clear. The Greek Myths Retold. So it's a collection of Greek mythology, different stories about, you probably recognize some of the names, Prometheus and Zeus and Aphrodite and Hermes and Hera and Cleo. So I think you'll recognize some of the names, and there's so many fun stories. Like Greek gods are like some kind of terrible family that keep arguing and um, uh, fighting, but then making up again and creating and destroying in all kinds of strange ways. So it's a really, really fun book. Definitely recommend. So that's all I've got time for today. I must log off now, but thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for all your questions. I hope this was interesting or useful in some way. Please come and chat to me at Pagoda. Come and join one of my classes, book discussion. Sorry to show off, but it's the best class. It just really is. We have so much fun. English will never be boring if you're in my class, I promise. So come and say hi to me. Come and join my classes. I look forward to seeing you at some point in the future. Thanks for joining me today. 안녕하세요.